The regular season is saying sayonara as we head into the playoffs, and we've got plenty of details, plenty of thoughts, plenty of predictions on that. Plus, new details coming up on the championship. Award season has shown itself, and we've got plenty to discuss about the awards that have been shown so far on episode 62 of the USFL Podcast. It starts right now.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome, everybody, into episode 62 of the USFL Podcast. I am Zach Kyleman, rallying the most in this episode, alongside my good buddy, my good pal, the man on the opposite side of the screen, the number one Panthers fan that's joining me, because I clearly am number two. I joined a little later than him. It is the ref himself. We're on a solid one-note front. Both of us, for the first time, are just as hyped because the Panthers are in the playoffs. We're going to talk about that and much more on this episode that we have previewed in the teaser. Trust me, it's a big one. We got a lot to lead into as we kick off what is the biggest playoffs of this league's return to the spotlight since 2022. How you doing? You got to be feeling great. As I throw the hat on, you're ready to go.
You're right. Yeah, it's a good week. It's a great week. It might be the best week ever. Our Michigan Panthers, since day one, have made it. We can tell because look at this hat. You know this is genuine. This is authentic. This is the hat of the number one Panthers fan. And you know what? I was there in beautiful Detroit City. You spoke with me yesterday. Can you believe my voice is even half as good? My voice was gone.
That's a great point. That is a great point. I haven't this entire time us getting ready to this show. I haven't even realized that you do not sound like you have thrown gravel down your vocal cords.
The second I landed,
your normal self.
The second I landed in Detroit, I've told you before, Detroit, it's like being in an abusive relationship. No matter how much it beats you up, breaks you down, and leaves you battered, you keep coming back for more. And I'm telling you, the second I landed, my voice was done, son. And by the time I got to that game, see, it's still a little bit of oof in there. But by the time I got to that game Sunday, it was so long gone. I did a little bit of a live stream over on the podcast Twitter, out on the field of Ford Field, my beautiful, beautiful Ford Field, which then led us to our Panthers victory. The curse is over. The curse is broken. And I know we don't talk about NFL, but I'm telling you, I'm feeling pretty dang good about the Lions now that I, the ref, finally took down the curse of broken football in Ford Field. Ref's law also came in clutch. It was a red letter day all around. I got to tell you what.
The script writers, I was hoping, would pick one of two options. Either you let the Panthers get sorrowful misery by losing every home game in a season, which, I was like, hey, we are on this path. And credit, this is what I wore for the game. Like, the outfit I have on, it's everything. I am very much holding close and dear to this week to keep the rally mode alive, because I came into this going, you know what, I'm going to hit the rally cap and I'm going to hit everything on the Fisher mode. The Fisher cap really is what I'd label it. And I'm going, we'll do it with this energy. And even going, I'm like, I have this energy, but man, it's going to be like, I need every bit of it. And you guys saw also the first half. We'll talk about that flip the script moment that was in that game. Things happened. The way I wanted it to end happened. We have 2 4-6 teams in the North representing the playoffs. It's wild. It's caused spring football communities to point at each other, go ha ha ha, because of some other team that did go 4-6 in a different league and rallied to a championship. So, funny how things work out.
It is funny too, especially when you look at the grand scheme of things. You would think I'd be really happy. The Gamblers, they have the third best record in the league.
Yeah, we'll get to talk about your I would say second straight year sitting on the sidelines. Although 5-5 and sitting on the sidelines, well, we're 4-6. I definitely could say totally not an awkward encounter with a Gamblers fan in your neighborhood if you run into them. How does it going?
Yeah,
we qualified last week.
It happens.
We'll discuss all this, and maybe we'll give a take about folks discussing the divisions or not. I'll give you a real short answer. Keep the divisions, but we can wait on that for a little bit later on. We got some plugs to do really quick. First things first. Hey, if you follow us on social media, you might want to do that, especially since summer stock is coming up in less than 2 weeks, less than 10 days, by the way.
A week, bro.
We are
a week
I know.
from today.
I know. That's what
Summer
we are
stock
sub double
2.
digits to Summer Stock 2, and we have a location. We have finalized the location. It is on our social media at USFL Podcast. We actually throw it up on screen, kind of pop it up.
Now you got to make me do
editor's
some work
note for
Zach,
later.
but I'll do it.
It's editor's note, guys. You'll hear it. You'll see it on screen, but you'll see the location there. Tom Benson Holiday Stadium. It's going to be a blast. We have a great location for you guys this year that basically, as you're going to the game, you get to see us as you walk in, and follow along for more updates on this as we go. Again, USFL Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. TikTok, especially for the day of the big show.
Speaking of, Zach,
just to keep you
when you get out to Canton, Ohio, I'm going to take a quick segue here. I got the summer stock dance.
You have it ready?
It's so ready.
I mean, you're not going to show it now.
No.
Spoiling.
But I dreamt it. It can't. I thought about it all night. I had like writer's block, dancer's block, if you will. I lay my little head down to sleep one night, and it all came to me. I woke up, I dusted it off. Oof, and it's good, Zachy boy. It's good, and I can't wait to teach you.
This is a fantastic primer for you to get on that TikTok account at USFL Podcast if you haven't already, for you younger crowd out there. Although I have my own TikTok too, so it's not like I'm drinking in the young years or anything. Anyhow, jump on in the social media. By the way, summer stock for the details. I'll just do that while we're talking about it. June 30th and July 1st. Don't forget, it's a 2-day affair. June 30th, 5 p.m. Eastern, we are going to be meeting at the Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, basically right next door to where the big event happens the next day. You want to meet us at the front of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If you see any of the photos from last year, had a nice crowd. We're going to do a nice crowd just again. We'll have a flag to help lead us along the way, which that has been locked down as we've been talking, and you'll want to join in. 5 o'clock for that tour, which the Hall of Fame, you don't want to miss it. It's a great experience for any football fan of any desired league, especially the NFL, of course. But there is USFL content. We get to check out that section again and see if there's anything new goodies along the way that have been added. Also, by the way, July 1st, the big shebang. 3 p.m. Eastern, meet us at the desired location on the said map we have shown you, and you'll get to see us and many a guest live. Like I said, we already have plenty of our local community guests in. You're going to get Ducky. You're going to get James Larson. You're going to get a few more that we are currently locking down. Angelo as well from the USFL Today. We can definitely confirm that he is ready to go. Still getting a few more details because it's crunch time. It's summertime for people. But trust me, we got more coming along the way that we are threading the needle on. Stay tuned for that. Finally, big deals on the social plugs. YouTube, subscribe to the channel, click that big red bar, then click the bell. Builds morale, not only for you, but for us too. You also get entered into a 5K giveaway for a custom USFL jersey of your choice once we hit 5,000 subscribers. You definitely want to be on board for that because these jerseys are getting better all the time. And if you need merch, if you can't wait for stuff, don't worry. Head on over to Breaking Tee. Get yourself one of those nice new custom tees. I hear there's an MB t-shirt finally on this site. If you're a Breakers fan, just in time for the playoffs, use promo code USFL Newsroom at checkout and support the show and the network by doing that on any products, not just USFL ones too. Anything in the store, slap a 10% discount code and you get to help us out at the same time. I think we got it all settled. Let's talk about Week 10, or as we were calling it and as people in the league were calling it, playoffs round 1, because really 3 of the 4 games were winning in. You can even argue that in all consideration, Stallions Showboats still was winning in, even with the tiebreakers and some of the absurdity needed for the Showboats to get into the playoffs. All games had winning in scenarios in some capacity, and we did have some bangers as games in this week. Kicking things off, though, I will say, in terms of like the first one, though, what happened, New Jersey? Where'd you go?
Right. We went from that game the week prior, week 9, one of the most exciting. I even said one of the best games of the season, maybe one of the best games since the league came back, to, like you said, Zach, I don't think I could say it any other way. What happened? Right?
What happened?
Yeah, what happened,
Where'd you
man,
go?
dude? What happened, dude? I don't know. But I'll tell you, you know what happened, Zach? The damn Pittsburgh Maulers defense, that's what happened. I mean, you know Jaron. I hope he bought him. I'm going to buy him a drink if I see him at Summer Stock Weekend and say, you earned that 1 week 10, buddy. You earned that 1 week 10. And I mean, dude, he was so fast to get in the Discord. It was like not too long after the game ended. He's like, where's everyone at? What happened? I thought we didn't have the best defense in the league. Sign him up. That. He earned that.
My favorite interaction, by the way, was the week prior, where you do have on the sideline during the Philadelphia contest, you have defenders for the Generals saying we are the best defense in the league. There's another team in our hub that is essentially lying to you. And then you see guys like Bookie Roberts jump on. It's like, you're lying on national television or on social media and television right now, aren't you? And of course, the beef built up. Someone had to walk away with that game. And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of glad I picked the Maulers last week, in the fact that, like I said, I think they wanted it a little more badly. It felt like they wanted it a little bit more badly. And I think there's some driving forces. Here's the thing. Last year's team, and I think Boogie said it best, it was either social media or on the Cleveland show that he's on, the Cleveland sports show that he's on, that he does a great job on, by the way, is that we want to be remembered this year not for the pizza incident. We want to throw the pizza incident out the door. Yeah. Like the whole, because they were so tired of that last year. They want to keep flipping the script. And I think that was just one of the sole driving forces. The fact that their defense is that, I think it's that well knit. I think it's a very well knit and connected group. They believe in each other a lot. And I think that was a huge bit for it. And finally, I mean, I don't know. I do put a little bit of my continued blame on some of the lackluster coaching decisions of New Jersey this year. And one of them came to light, by the way, and I want to hear your thought on this, was after the fact. Credit, this is a player's opinion. There's there's multiple sides to a story and all that, but it was a little weird when you saw Trey Williams, who was one of the main stars the week prior to help with the Generals getting their win over Philadelphia in a live or die scenario, get benched. He was inactive. And apparently he blamed one of his coaches, Steve Smith, for benching him, and possibly a little bit more than just that week in terms of the rest of the season, which he was kind of jerked around on that roster all year. I want to hear what you think, because I mean that was like a whoa type of tweet. It's like, what's going on here?
Man, Zach giving me the hot take. Usually I'm the one with the spicy takes, but
I have the rally mode going on. I'm taking your energy.
You are.
I need it.
You softened me up. Well, I am beaten up, broken down, and battered from Detroit, but I will say this, right? Coming from me, this will sound rich. I don't want to speculate. Because, I mean, who knows? Who knows what the scenario is? Who knows what the situation is? Is it odd? Yeah, it's a little odd, especially like you mentioned. That game last week was arguably the best game they've had all season, maybe since the return. You take out one of the key guys going into a make-or-break moment, but I don't want to speculate why. So what could be, what it is, I don't know, but I will say it's strange, it's odd, and quite possibly is the reason that they took a 26-6 shellacking by those Maulers.
Well, I think that there's definitely more at play. Personally, I mean, I got to give way more of the credit goes to the Pittsburgh Maulers. I think they came out of the gate all facets of their game were on the table and playing in sync, even offensively, with that Generals defense, which there were people that could lay a claim. They still showed out and played as needed, had decent drives for scoring touchdowns, and of course that Madre London TD that sealed the deal and essentially put any hope of the Generals getting any sort of energy back into the building was gone once Madre crossed the goal line. I think something they did an excellent job with highlighting in terms of Pittsburgh, kind of highlighting what the Generals lack the most, and something that it wasn't as bad. It wasn't, I think, as prevalent last year because Luis Perez was this pass first QB, and I'm not saying DeAndre Johnson, whichever one you prefer calling, is a bad passing quarterback, but explosive passing plays, not the Generals' forte. Like, without question, it is not the bread and butter that they go with. So, if you can have a decent run game, but if you can't rely on that all game, which they couldn't, that's the deal. You can run at some points. The Generals will get their number. It's like, and I'm going to use a Colin Cowardism here, if you will. It's like, say, like LeBron James, when you play LeBron James. He'll get his number. You just can't let him be the guy, or it's the thing. Whereas like the Generals, you're going to get your rushing numbers. You just can't let it be the thing that breaks you down. And sure enough, DJ gets picked off twice, has one of his arguably his worst game of the season when he has been allowed to start as the season's gone on, and things just completely crumbled from there. And I do think next year, no matter where this roster goes, which, by the way, they already have signed on a player again, DeMornay Pearson-L, who was on the roster beginning of the season, so they're starting early. Go figure.
Well, that's exactly what they did last year too, right? They went right into it.
Right. They just got to be careful. Don't overextend yourself. That's how you got penalized in the draft, is the deal. But they need to find explosiveness. Like that roster, even with all the stuff I've talked about with the DJ getting jerked around, which I think is also a crime and something that was one of their downfalls this year, was that they couldn't just leave the QB room alone. That being said, explosive plays were not as often. Darius Shepard wasn't there. I think the run game was disjointed because they kept messing around with Trey Williams' status or something alike, or they wouldn't give Darius Victor as many touches. Like, just felt off. Like, defensively, everything defensively felt like status quo from last season. But they just never, the identity wasn't there. I really thought this offense was going to take a leap, but I don't think anyone perceived that you were going to see Mike Riley and company completely just mess around with the tools on that one side of the ball all the time. Yeah. And I think it's the main reason they got derailed and went from first to worst. Right. It's because of this.
Speaking of which, on the other side of it, I don't even know if we have how we haven't mentioned this already. On the flip side of it, we had the Maulers going worst to first. Yeah. I mean, in the North at least, right? But sign them up. I mean,
it's still a win.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I mean, kudos to them. 26-6. I don't know if I would have predicted that score. But man, you got a little bit on your hands next week, Zachy boy, with the Maulers looking hot to trot here.
I can promise you, I fully expect a hard fought contest either way. Actually, it's funny, in terms of defenses, the Panthers got a lot of praise as well in there, which they are. I mean, honestly, in the North, if you look, when we discussed the ALL-USFL teams, clearly you could tell which divisions had some of the bigger towns. And there will be discussions, snubs, what you name it. But even that being said, like fans, people in the league, divisions had obvious trends with both of these. And the North was very much the defensive skill set minded teams with a lot of offensive, either, I think, coming ups or figuring outs, as we'll see down the way. And it certainly showed. The Maulers, man, they did what they needed to do. You get a few sacks on DJ, you pick him off twice. They forced a few fumbles on the day as well. Like, they did what they needed. They did everything that they needed to secure the bag, is the best way I can put it. So that's all you can ask, is you just got to be able to play smooth. And defensively, they are strong enough to where that unit can carry itself. The hope was all year that you'd see an offense that keeps trending up and up, And eventually it did. You know, I think it's gotten to a point where as long as you give Trey Williams enough time to where he doesn't take a crazy amount of sacks. Now, credit, he's still, I mean, geez, I'm looking back at the stat sheet for this game. And I mean, he still took on 3 sacks. Better than some. He's taking on like games of 5 and 6 on a regular basis this year. But that will help you win. You know, you limit that, you let them roam a little bit, you kind of diversify your offense, and then you let your defense go to work on the opposite side and be your bread and butter. You know, that's been the winning formula for the Maulers. And that's really what won them that contest. You know, New Jersey came out flat. Pittsburgh wanted it badly, and their mechanics of winning took over. And eventually they won out by the largest margin of the weekend. 26-6 beatdown.
Beatdown is right. And, moving on to the next game, that's exactly what the Showboats needed to do, was a beatdown of epic proportions. And I'll tell you the way.
Absurdly epic proportions.
Oh, yeah. Now, when the game started out, they came out hot. And I remember sitting back and thinking, are these crazy guys going to pull this nonsense off? No, they didn't. But you know what? No. Not without fighting hard. They couldn't even win the game, but the Stallions just are so hot to trot. There's some things they need to work on, which I'll let you elaborate on. But I think we were in this very same position last year. Yep, they lost an extra game than they did last year, sure. But I don't know. I'd almost say if you pit 2022 versus 2023 Stallions, I think they edge them out. I think they're just that much smarter, that much quicker. The mistakes are there, but the mistakes have always been there. And I think they could do it.
I mean, I'll give you that. I mean, the Stallions last year, even in wins, there were ones that were like ugly, got to get through turnovers type of wins, which is exactly what happened here. If you look at, you look at the amount of turnovers that should have been costly for the Stallions, the Memphis Showboats with just a little bit better offensive production probably could have walked away with this. It's something that you can't have happen against the Breakers, and certainly it's going to be addressed. I mean, Skip Holtz comes off as a perfectionist at times, where it's like, we played a good game, but like we definitely still haven't played our best game type of mentality. And that's something they just got to clean it up. You know, I think that guys like you see like Jay Sternberger and CJ Marable, they're becoming regular, I think, targets for both praise and scrutiny by the Stallions fans and myself, because, we're talking while we're watching this game in the Discord for Pro Football Newsroom. By the way, link in the description if you want to join up and stop in with us for that. And you got guys going in there going, we need to bench CJ Marable. We need to get him off the field. And I'm sitting there and going, yes, his fumbles are annoying, but he is your best running back. A series later, he goes and runs for his lone touchdown on the day. And I go, hey, he scored a TD. But that's the thing. Like, this is a team that has talent. It's just that, sometimes they will have these lapses where they'll play down to their opponent for a few series. And then you go, oh, wait, we're extremely talented. We have arguably the MVP quarterback in the league. Still waiting on that award, by the way. But it's seeming like it's going that direction right now. We have potential MVP at QB. We've actually got a really good receiving set, including one of the top 5 receivers in the league in receiving yards with Davion Davis, who's come on strong second half of the year super well. We have a top 5 running back, by the way, because CJ Marable is top 5 in rushing yards thanks to his increased role this year. We got weapons. We just need to, not have lapses on drives or have these weird turnovers at like awkward situations. I'm playing perfectionist, but that is something that has kind of been at times plaguing the Stallions over the last 2 years, even though they've only lost 3 games. They do have games like that where you're going to be going, what are they doing? And then they'll flip it around, and they'll get a takeaway right back at you or something like that. But, clean it up. You're going to have a great game against the Breakers. And it should be a good contest no matter what, honestly, when we touch on
hell of a game.
New Orleans. I do want to spend a little more time on Memphis, though,
sure,
because we will get to talk about Birmingham more at length later in the show. The Showboats, look, they lost their last 2 games. They had an ugly beginning of the season. Honestly, you can partially blame those 2 blowouts they had this year against New Orleans and Birmingham for sinking what could have been much more legitimate playoff chances to fight for in Week 10. Because they needed 37 points and then Houston to do their job and, basically go up a few scores on New Orleans to even the playing field. It was going to be almost Titanic, or almost not Titanic, almost just immensely impossible.
Right.
It felt like it would have been like a razor thin type of event happening, and it didn't work out as expected. It was a hard, well fought fight. Memphis obviously kept up with Birmingham. I think last week they saw, rain delay be damned. They weren't going to end on a down note. You don't lose 31-3, and then the next week on your final home game with nice weather and a big crowd go, yeah, we're just going to lay an egg going into next year in a market that's been really good to us all season. And they didn't. They fought hard to the end. Stars played up to where they were needed. It's just that some things didn't break their way. I feel like Cole Kelly, some of his last 2-week turnover woes caught up to him. I think that some of the offensive deficiencies for the Showboats, which they were average, they're just not better than everyone else in the South is the deal. And those caught up eventually. The Stallions finally got out of their own way. And it was a good fought game till the end, just wasn't going to be the Showboats' day. But I tell you what, compared to last year's 5-5 Tampa Bay Bandits season, if you're comparing Todd Haley's seasons back to back, I feel way more optimistic about this one than I did last year. Because last year it felt like Todd Haley was like, and I know some people that have been arguing on our Discord, you should still be let go. We need to get someone else. I'm like, I don't know about that, man.
He's having fun.
Like, he embraced the community heavily last year. It felt like he was way more in touch with his guys this season than even last year's squad, which that's saying something. And it felt like, they progressively improved. It wasn't like it was a team that had the talent. They just needed to get out of their own way all year. It felt like this was a team that he started from the bottom. They built back up, built an incredible defense on the other side. And if they can even bring a fraction of those guys back, which you've seen, guys in spring football, and we'll see this season even more so with two leagues fighting for talent, but guys like their guys.
Right.
And I think that if you have guys that don't get signed on this offseason, like imagine a Greg Reeves, a John Atkins coming back on the defensive side, Cole Kelly with another season where he is fully the starter next year under his belt. Say you're lucky enough to where you get any of the receivers back. I don't know if you'll get Derek Dillon, but say you get Ryan McDaniel, he gets a full season, he becomes more of the top tier target. There's weapons here, that you can use. And I think that you give him another year. Todd Haley, the community seemed to embrace him in the yacht club. Anytime I've talked to a yacht club guy, or most of them, they like him as a coach. And I think that should be your head coach and your team next year. Just keep building what you're doing with Dave Rosano and Todd Haley. Give it another season, see where it goes.
And you know what else I like about Todd Haley? He knows how to use what his mama gave him. I mean, he should have been twerking just a little bit more going into that game, and maybe they would have got those points. That's all I'm saying. I'm just going to leave it out there, but the ref tells it like it is. I mean, sign him up. You know what I mean? He caught me looking.
Throw it back one more week after that loss. Be like, come on, bring the energy.
Yeah.
I liked what I saw from this year, and he started on a down note. Remember, folks,
0-3,
we're talking
man.
like week 2 and week 3. Those were rough. It was like borderline. We were starting to talk, oh God, is this like the community's new enemy? And then he flipped the script completely in the 5-game win streak. It's because I think that's
what it was,
Zach.
That
to me,
I sent him a couple boxes of pizza, and he looked at that and said, "Bro's right. Yeah, let's go start twerking instead." Sign him up.
Sign him up, man. Like I said, I like where the Showboats are, and especially as a franchise. By the way, I was happy too because I was curious about this, and you and I looked up this. Is that where are they going to play next year? And because of renovations, well, they confirmed. Multiple people did. We had guys from the yacht club when I asked them. You had personnel from the league on Facebook confirm this too, that they're going to play in Memphis in the Liberty Bowl. It's just that renovation will work around on the other side, and they'll get to play on the side that they want. And the league actually invested like $250,000 towards adjusting the seating arrangement and the camera arrangements for future years, because apparently one of the biggest complaints, I didn't know this because I don't know the Liberty Stadium that well, but I guess they put the press box on the shade side, and the league wanted only one side to kind of have players at. Now that's changing as it's going to be in future years, but they started that progress this year. to kind of move things around.
Right.
So, fascinating to watch as they work around the rebuild. But, in longevity's sake, if you've seen any of the plans for Liberty Stadium, it's incredible. Like the design drawings look amazing. I am stoked a few years down the road when the Showboats are there to see what they get to play in as the visiting tenant, or is the second tenant in the league.
100%.
So I love to see it. But yeah, good. I think good futures ahead for Memphis fans. I loved you guys. The yacht club is huge. The captain's hats spread around the league like wildfire. It was great. I loved this year. I know you don't love this next game though. Is all. I'll let you lead in and get your sympathies in while we're here. Was not Houston's day.
I mean, well,
sadly.
I think every day is Houston's day, but somehow, some way, there was a malfunction during this game. The scoreboard at the end of it said 17-10. I said, that can't be. We're all in. But turns out we were all out. The Breakers, here's the thing. Coach Flip, a tip of the hat, a milady for him from our old days. I mean, I couldn't be more happier for him. He may have took out my team, but he won my heart. I mean, him on the sidelines, getting amped up into that game. The Gamblers had a hard road ahead of them, but you know what they did, Zach? They weren't an embarrassment. Now, oh, geez, God, I realize as I'm saying this, I have PTSD from being a Lions fan, but I'm going to say it anyway. They may not be going to the playoffs, but they did so much better than last year, and it gives me so much hope for next year. And I can only ask, just one more inch, one more second faster, and our Gamblers would have been all in this season. There was only maybe one or two games that we lost that we couldn't win. Even this one, 17-10, we could have edged that out. We had opportunities to edge it out. But as they say, 1 inch too fast, 1 inch too slow. You can't touch it. You can't reach it. You can't see it, and you won't win it. But what are the great things that we have out of it? I mean, Coach Johnson turned things around. We are the third best team in the league. We're missing
Another
out
good
on the
story
playoffs
from this year. Yeah, him joining as late as he did and putting together that campaign. Dude, you could tell every time he got on the mic, super appreciative of his time, loved his guys. It looked like just very humble type of coach. Really liked it. It was his new beginning. He felt looked like it was his breath of fresh air restart after his days in Tulane and getting a second chance at being a pro coach. Since otherwise besides that, he's been amazingly known as an NFL assistant outside of his college tenure at Tulane. So him getting his next chance, and because of Sean Payton helping him get that chance, he's got to be loving it. Even if we went 5-5, it's a rough go.
This is still compared to last year, it's a win. Like you said, he had the shortest runway of any of the coaches in the league. Our defense was picked apart in the offseason, and he was able to come in and make a run at it. And not to mention, we'll talk about this a little bit later as we're talking about stats leaders and all USFL players. But kudos to him. And whatever it might be, but he coached Mark Thompson to one hell of a season. Whereas I don't know if we would have had as much success had we had maybe some more of the same regime that we had last year. But in realistically, what we saw here was another fun, and maybe not as close as the first matchup, but close matchup between not only two teams in the South Division, but the Breakers and the Gamblers, because, it was earlier this season. They both put up a barn burner, and it was only a few points difference, I think 3-point game at the end of it. And this one, same thing, one possession game, really could have gone either way. Things that I love to see out of it, even though I'm a Gamblers fan, I was rooting for the Gamblers. Part of me is really happy that the Breakers are in there, not only for Coach Flip, McLeod, Bethel Thompson. We talked to him at the beginning of the season. He's a CFL legend. I jokingly said future USFL legend. So if there's anybody that's going to kick us out of the playoffs to ensure that they have a spot, I'm kind of glad it's the Breakers. I wouldn't be saying the same thing if it was the Stallions, and I sure as hell wouldn't be saying it if it was the Showboats.
Well, I will tell you, I mean, the South did do its number to kind of push down the second half of the year for Houston, because it's weird looking back how it was a 3-2 year. We're talking about a upset victory over Birmingham in Birmingham. And then you have your hub partner who you take a late lead against Memphis. You have your hub partner beat you on just a dagger of a touchdown run, catch and run from Derek Dillon a few weeks prior. And then your rival in the Birmingham Stallions come in and get their revenge back. You know, it just felt like some missed opportunities. I mean, I'll give you, again, 5-5 season, definitely a better effort. I'm more impressed, like you're saying, about the fact that this defense, you know, they basically re-upped and reshaped themselves. Really good stuff. You know, I am fascinated to see how that goes in the offseason for a lot of these guys coming up. Manny Bunch, I think, actually built his stock even more than last year. And, you know, last year he got his nod for looking like he knocked the teeth out of Trey Walker, right. Not Isaiah Henney, different person. But, you know, he had an insanely huge hit in that loss last season to the Pittsburgh Maulers. Comes on this year, his play is double to triple the production, double to triple the impact. I mean, he's one of the lone South guys on the all-USFL defensive squad. You know, that was a huge lone star. I'm fascinated to see where he goes in terms of his production. Same for Tolson. You know, 4th in the league in terms of overall tackles with linebackers and one of the top linebackers in the league. I'm fascinated to see where he goes. You know, Gamblers are building some defensive pieces. They're like a defense factory now. So keep in touch. We'll see where they go. Mark Thompson, I'm fascinated too. And his 14 TDs, that's top 5 in USFL history as of this week.
Modern record. 14 touchdowns.
Modern record as well.
Sign him up.
The two top backs in this game. I mean, shoot, Wes Hill's modern rushing record for the season, 679, just missed the 700 mark. I really thought he was going to break the 700 mark, but just missed it. Still, incredible year, 9 touchdowns to his name, and a few hundred yards passing, reception yards to add on to that docket. Final thing with the Gamblers for me, and I think this is like, for some reason, this sticks out in my head because I think it's just because I've gotten like almost like PTSD from Mike Riley doing QBs injustice this season in terms of how he manages them. Montel Kozart coming in on the goal line and throwing an interception, or really in the red zone, like one of the biggest plays of that game where Vontae Diggs is there, gets a beautiful toe tap pick and changes the course of that drive for them. You look at the score, 7-point difference. Stuff like that. Like I talk about like why you leave your guy alone. And I don't know what was going on. Maybe it was a gadget play item to me. It didn't look like it was because they ran a normal, shotgun pass, but guys, why overcomplicate it? That's my question. We talk about rhythm of QBs. He threw 2 passes in this contest. One of them was an interception to Vontae Diggs. Inside the 10. You lost by 7. Yeah. Like, think about that for a second. You lost by 7. And one of them was because of a turn. Now, the other one was a god-awful snap that they had to throw the thing away, and it was a field goal missed opportunity inside the red zone. And that's points off the board. But that's a touchdown as well right there, possibility that really was self-inflicted wound that could have been avoided if maybe you leave the normal QB in and don't try and drag the backup onto the field to maybe throw someone off for a play.
Right. Either way, you know what I'm doing? I'm looking forward to next year because at this point, I guess in a couple weeks, we'll be undefeated again. And we're going to stay that way for a long, long time, Zach. 12-0, maybe 24-0, 36. Hell, I don't know. All in, baby. We're going all in next year. Until then, I'm glad to see the Breakers make it because as my hat says, it's funny, I forgot this was on until I just saw it in the, we can't let you see what's under here. We gotta put that back on.
Oh my gosh.
That's the game of the week here, Zachy boy.
I've got all the energy right here. Don't worry. This negates it. I'm bringing back the Fisher
Someone had to do it. Someone had to do it. And you know what? For the first time in USFL history, old and modern, the Philadelphia Stars will not be in the championship game.
I'm glad you let off with that, because that, I think, is the biggest piece of news of this game. Besides, the Panthers making it. Sure, we can talk. Obviously, we're going to talk that more at length. But think about this. Yes, the league had its gap in between. We get that. They talk modern and original histories is how they view it on social. But the Stars, it's 4 championships they have been to in a row, 4 playoff appearances, and they were on their way to a 5th. 3 weeks ago, this team was 4-3 in the driver's seat. We sat on this show, and everyone else did, saying, dang, Philadelphia's back. And you know what? They did play back, except here's the thing. They couldn't close all 3 of those weeks. They could not close out. Think about this. Birmingham, they go in. They lose on a final possession touchdown within 30 seconds left in the contest. Remember, Michael Petway catches that TD. Everyone loses their mind in Birmingham. Philadelphia goes home and says, oh, well, we're 4-4. Right. That's fine. Don't worry. We got New Jersey next week. New Jersey's been down and out all season. DeAndre Johnson comes back after injury. They come in, smack Philadelphia in the mouth for 3 quarters. Philadelphia goes, oh, crud, we need to rally, losing on trying to rally. They couldn't finish the deal. So then they go, okay, don't worry. We got Michigan. Michigan's been down and out all year. Yeah, we lost them at the beginning of the season, but they haven't looked the same. And then you go wait later in the week and you hear, oh, EJ Perry, who they just signed the week prior, is now starting this week instead of Josh Love. So you're sitting here going, okay, don't worry. We've got Case Cookus, who has been arguably one of the top echelon QBs all season. We've got Corey Coleman and company. Defense has been arguably playing better. Yeah, they gave up 37 last week, but that's that second half they were playing up. We got this. Michigan's ineffective, and they come back home to the hub. It looked like arguably and you can put your opinion on this, but to me it looked like even a larger crowd than the home opener, if not close to the same home opener level of attendance. So, and if anything, it seemed like on TV it was louder than that first game.
Oh, it was loud. I'll tell you that much. It was loud. Not so much me, because I didn't have a voice, but I tried. There I was on the sideline. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I know. And so they come back. You have this big crowd. Michigan starts off not so great. They get 20 up in the first half. And then they give up 17 straight and get shut out. Well, and there's some factors I'll keep in mind, but talk about something we haven't talked about as much in this is that Philadelphia kind of had an epic collapse to even get to this point. They were in the driver's seat. They were 3 weeks ago looking like the de facto top North team, and they completely dropped the ball.
I knew it was going to happen after they scored the first touchdown. I knew it.
You did.
I guarantee it. I leaned over to a friend of mine at the game and I said, they just did the worst thing you can do at Ford Field. The worst thing you can do. I've seen it time and time and time again. The Lions come into the game. They come marching right down the field and they score right away. And they're like, yeah, see, we mean business. We're going to win this game so big. And then did they win that game? Did they win that game big at all? No. They got the Ford Field trap. So here's the thing, Zach. Why are they winning the coin flip and receiving the ball to even put them in that position in the first place?
I guess Bart Andrus doesn't know about the trap game. And honestly, it is a win-in game. You don't think of it as a trap game, but credit, all the lead-up did feel like, again, EJ Perry, and keep in mind, Panthers fans like myself, we have had mixed opinions on Josh Love all year. I mean, it is feast or famine. Dude has 2 Player of the Week nods, but throws 4 interceptions the week prior and makes us go, why? Why did you do that? This wasn't what we saw a few weeks ago. That's the type of year it's been for the QB position. So when EJ gets thrown in, we're going, oh, cool. I mean, he looks solid in training camp, but wait a minute. You're telling me he's playing with like less than 2 weeks and he gets his first team reps this week. Wade, what is going on? And it looked like it. Like, no matter what way you spin this win, it was that. I mean, we're talking misreads on snaps, fumbled snaps. He's talking about how he's frustrated on the sideline with and this is something that was fascinating to me, and I had been wondering all season if maybe guys started talking about this about the Panthers offense, was why are we running all these deep routes, but there's no shallow crosser or no like shallow entry, which was a problem I had been having with the Panthers offense. They run all these deep routes, but there's never a safety valve route or a underneath route. And you notice second half of this contest, I know that Mike Nolan at halftime apparently, and I'll say quote unquote, according to the press conference, said we didn't make adjustments. But I am knowing darn well that EJ or someone must have went to Eric Marty and said, hey, let's start running quick routes underneath so we can get our guy going. All this being said, that's not why the Panthers won. Yeah, their offense did get into some gear. They found a few drives. They got themselves going a little bit. You know what really won it? Special freaking teams. Special teams. You can't go onto that box score and tell me that offense with just over 200 yards beat the Philadelphia Stars on that offense alone. Defensively, it wasn't too much of a special affair for Michigan. They held their own in the second half. There weren't any fancy turnovers. There really wasn't any sacks. They got hits on Cookus, but they actually did a great job of Case and company getting the ball out and in a timely manner. Special teams won the day for the Michigan Panthers in the best way possible. That block punt, the one that really kicked things off. They're down 20-6. You see, it's a deep punt, of course, that the Stars have deep in their own territory. They got to get this bad boy out of their course. And thank God that we were able to see a block punt.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, isn't it fitting in Ford Field? Again, I joke about it a lot, but I feel like if there's any place that should have stellar special teams, it's at the home of Jason Hansen and Prater and all of the kickers that have ever kicked in that bad boy, because they're so dang good. They're so dang fun. And the tradition continues.
I owe so much of my happiness on Sunday night to Marcus Sims for his performance. Not only the block punt. He blocked that punt to allow A.J. Richardson to return that touchdown. His returns helped that offense get any sort of momentum. That touchdown, that final touchdown drive, that was the game winner, the one where EJ almost fumbles the snap and does his own interpretation of a touchdown run. That was set up by an impressive return. Like the entire night, that was his job, getting return yards and that block punt. That man, not many things can be single-handed, but he was close to single-handedly setting up Michigan for winning this one in the second half, and rightfully deserves that. And that's a very special player of the week nod he got special teams wise that is worth more than gold, because Michigan, against all odds, against everyone saying they were down out, even me being pretty much on the edge going into this game, going, you know what, we're really damn close to just letting this one get the towel thrown in. I owe him thanks. Like, this is the fan of me coming out. And Panthers team members, the head coach Mike Nolan, for a year he's had, which has been up and down. Eric Marty, to me, a year he's had, which has also been up and down and hasn't been talked about enough. They deserve giving him a ton of praise. And EJ Perry now gets an extra week to hopefully have a smoother contest in the most important game of the season against a foe coming up that they haven't won against this season. No.
I mean, the playoffs are going to be one hell of a show. I love that we're going from last year, the toilet bowl between the Maulers and the Panthers, to this year, the Maulers and the Panthers are teeing things up for the North Division. North Division playoffs was the toilet bowl last year. I mean, what a turnaround for both flipping teams.
It's nice for Canton because I don't know how much we'll see of Maulers fans, but technically, by standards of the locations that were set up at the beginning of the year, Maulers pseudo get a home game out of this. You know, I know it's a neutral hub, but for a playoff game, a little extra incentive for folks just down the way to say, okay, I got to go travel now.
And it's only a 3.5 hour drive, I think, from the Detroit Metro down to Canton. So, I mean,
imagine if Pittsburgh wins the. Now, I don't. I personal fan wise, you know who I want to win, but just think about this. Imagine if Pittsburgh does get the win this week, and then says, we're in the championship, and technically it's only an hour-ish away. Right. Hey, want to come support a Pittsburgh squad? And then it's Yinzer City. Here we come.
Yeah.
That's how I'm
It'll be John.
it.
Oh, wait, no, that's Philadelphia. Never mind. Wrong city.
Hang on. It's
Whatever. But no, hell of a show. I'm looking forward to it. Hell of a week last week. But now that the season's over, Zach, I've talked about this in the weeks leading up. I can't believe we're at week 6, week 7, week 8. We're at the end of season 2. We only have 3 games separate us between now and the absolute end. The book is at the conclusion, but we do have some stats leaders here. We also have the ALL-USFL team announced. In addition to that, they went above and beyond when it comes to the coaches. We have Coach of the Year and Assistant Coach of the Year.
A new one.
Brand new. And we're going to get to all of that. Stats leaders here. Some interesting things happening here. Corey Coleman, beginning of the year, probably wouldn't believe this, but look at him now. 669 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. Birmingham Stallions, it makes sense that they're near the top. But Sage Surratt, Jay Sternberger, again, Birmingham's on this list twice in the top 5, right?
In my book 3 times, given that Sage Surratt was a Stallion last year.
They are just scary. But, capping it out, we got Justin Hall. They're all in. Justin Hall in.
My favorite Gamblers player just because of the ball state connection. But also, I hope he gets a nod. He catches and runs hard. He hits hard for the size he is. I love the way he plays. And I'm glad to see that he's going to get recognition as a top 5 receiver. Honestly, should have had more targets, in my opinion, after Anthony Ratliff-Williams went down during the year. But still, 500 yards production, given the fact that he was splitting catches more so during the season. Excellent job there. Tell you what, though, didn't even mention this during the Stars Michigan Panthers breakdown. Corey Coleman wasn't available second half. He was knocked out with injury. Kind of also partially changed how the game was played for Philadelphia. That's an impact player. That shows you, came on strong. Teams had to worry about guarding him. Actually, Joel Clapp mentioned during the game when DeAndre Overton caught his touchdown pass from Case that part of that was set up because Corey Coleman drew safeties away from that play. Right. So glad to see he gets a rebound year for his career in the USFL. And honestly, we haven't seen the award come out, but that production level, touchdowns might not be there, but that is definitely still an Offensive Player of the Year candidate right there because of what he did for Philadelphia. So got to see if his name does get called later on, maybe this week post our show. We'll find
100%. out. So those are receivers, tight ends. Moving over to running backs. I think the top guy here, no surprise. Wes Hills pulled it out just by a little bit, Zach. 957 yards on the year. 679 rushing, 278 receiving, 10 touchdowns, man, 10 flipping touchdowns. And you brought it up earlier, we need to bench CJ Marable. Are you guys crazy?
No.
Number 2 receiver, running back in the league, 760 yards total, 525 versus 235 and 5 touchdowns. This is the guy that you're trying to bench here. This one, so close to getting the number 2 spot, though.
For reference on that, by the way, with the fumbles, Darius Victor and Wes Hills both had 4 fumbles this year, along with C.J. Marable. All of them had the same amount of fumbles. It's just that Marable lost 3 of them, Hills 2. Victor lost more. He actually lost 4 of his 4 fumbles. Right. But 2 of them came in one game. So keep that in mind. I'm just saying, he did have fumble issues and woes like 2 of these other backs, but you can see he's also in that with the 2 other big backs. Because Victor also, as expected, finished with a 500-plus yard season rushing and with, sizably a 700-yard performance on the year. Honestly, should have had more touches, to be honest with you, because he wasn't utilized. To me, he wasn't utilized as much as he should have been throughout the year.
Right.
Just goes to show how good Victor has been for the league, given the fact that 2 years in, he's an Offensive Player of the Year. He's the only back in the league that has he is the first one to 1,000 for the league this season. He broke that 1K mark. Thompson, I think, was either close or just got it to double check. But, good play.
Oh, for sure.
West Hills, though, just under 1,000 yards total offense. I mean, again, we got several Offensive Player of the Year candidates here. Mark Thompson, I think people will point out because of the fact he only started 7 games. He got that number with only 7 games production and only was in 8.
And
first 2 weeks of the season, he wasn't even in.
And sets the record for most touchdowns in the modern USFL.
The modern
He
era,
edged out Darius Victor by 1 yard, 744 to 743, and he was so close to surpassing Marable, only 16 yards away from the number 2 running back in the league, 760 to 744.
He just didn't get as many
Well,
he just
3
didn't get as many
games,
reception yards.
3 games,
Yeah.
Zach. Like, think about
I know.
that. I mean,
He was available for one of them, and then they finally got him into gear week 4. And I mean, obviously, you could see the rest is how it's been most of the season. You wonder what his number would be at the end of the year. Honestly, if West Hills would have kept up his production we saw the first half of the season, or if Thompson was in for one of those 2 extra weeks that he wasn't in entirely, one of them would have finished 700 yards rushing, which is huge for spring. I mean, you get 10 weeks.
10, yeah.
10. So averaging 100 a game to get 1,000, you have to be a damn good backdoor. You're going to get picked up by the NFL at that point. So good numbers. I love the running back battle for that yard number this year. CJ Marable taking on his extra role, kind of going back to what he was before Bo Scarborough was great to see. Cause again, he is a good running back. He is your best running back available right now. And he is one of the top running backs in the USFL at the time being. Finally, really good QB performances, obviously. And besides Alex Magoo, I mean, 2,500 yards himself. We highlighted ourselves. 2,500 yards, 25 touchdowns total, 20 through the air, 5 on the ground, over 100 QBR for the season, and over 65% completion percentage for the year. That is good numbers anyway. And for a mobile QB nonetheless. If that was in the NFL, you'd be going, that's a darn good start. I'm like, yeah, it is a good start. I would want him as my quarterback if that's what I got against those type of guys. So he's getting the nods. MBT, as much as he did cool off a little as the season went, still top passing yards leader in the league. And Case Cook has heated up as the year went on and actually ended with more overall yards.
Modern record.
Combined.
Yeah. Crazy because MBT was leading it. Every week leading up until the end, right until the end, you have Cookus come out on top, Alex Magoo come out above him. But 2,572 yards, new modern passing record in the USFL. Sign him up. Alex Magoo right behind him, like you said, 2507. And McLeod Bethel Thompson, well, he'll be looking for his revenge in this postseason right now. Just shy of 2,500. But what's great about this, and this is kudos to the USFL Comms Twitter account, finished with 100 total yards, within 100 yards of each other. The top 3 quarterbacks in the league. And I mean, you love to see that. That's competition, baby.
It was. They were all right there. I mean, shoot, for the way that Cookus' season ended, I mean, kudos to Bart Anderson Company for adjusting their game plan. Hopefully next year, no matter who's behind center, they learn from the previous 2 years, get better at understanding your blocking scheme ahead of time. Because you saw Case was taking less hits. His yardage jumped up in much bigger bunches by the end of the year. He looked like the Case Cookus of last season, where his second half performance was stellar. And you do wonder, hey, if they start the year hot and they give him time, what could have been? We could have had a 3,000-yard 3,000-yard player, I think, in Case, if he gets a little more time to begin the year, is what's wild to me. So, whatever happens post this season for him, if he's back, if he's not, we'll find out. I mean, I'd love to see what happens if he came back with a third year. They understand what they need to do out the gate and then go with that again. But that's up to him, of course. Meanwhile, the 2 other QBs, Alex Magoo, McLeod Bethel Thompson, we get to watch them play in Birmingham. That'll be an electric event. I can't wait to watch them, really. It's going to be so good. We get two top guys playing against each other. And both those games have been fun. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the playoffs are going to be great this year. Before we get to that, we have all USFL team, 2023 all USFL team, Zach. I think you kind of alluded to this earlier. There was some people think there's a controversy. I don't know what we can discuss through that. What in here? I guess let me just start it like this. Who's missing?
Well, I'm gonna go through the. Let me go
Sure.
through the list once more.
Yeah.
And I think some of here's the deal. Part of not the problem, but part of what leads to I think a lot of this discussion is because there's no second team. Is why. And I get like guys like Vontae Diggs, who a lot of Breakers fans are going, where's Vontae? And it's like, yeah, you're right. Vontae played a hell of a year, but you got to look at the linebacking group. Like someone tried to say, well, why is Vontae in but not DJ Daniel? Well, they play different positions first off, so we can't even compare that. You're comparing apples to oranges. You got to compare the linebackers, and you look at the linebackers, hard to argue you can't have guys like, for example, Frank Ginda and Kaifa Tezino in that discussion. You have to have them in. Even Chris Orr. Now, Chris Orr didn't play all season. He had one injury week, but again, it's splitting hairs. You got to discuss this farther. I think that argument, like the ones that are out, we might get to the point next year where maybe we discuss a second team with some of these guys, because it did kind of split. Besides a few anomalies, it did split to where all defense was pretty much the North, sans like John Atkins and Manny Bunch. And then all offense was pretty much the South, sans Corey Coleman and really two linemen from the Generals here with the likes of Jake Cena and Calvin Ashley, which I had someone go, wait, why are there two Generals linemen? It's like the Generals actually gave up the least sacks in the league and the best rushing game in the league. So it just shows you how we talk about the inefficiency of that offense. It shows you how inefficient that offense was when the line was holding its end of the bargain up. But that's the deal. I think the second team argument's the biggest point of this, is that people want to see those players get a little more recognition, and they should. I think we're getting to the point where we have enough talent that we can do a second team figuratively, and we'll figure it out. But that's up to the league. Anyway, let's read them off if you're jumping in for the first time and don't know who's who. So kicking off with the offense, quarterback Alex Magoo. As we were saying, front runner for the MVP, and the league very much recognized him as an all-USFL talent. So he is the quarterback for the all-USFL team. Both Wes Hills and Mark Thompson are the running backs for the all-USFL team, which deservedly so. Corey Coleman, Justin Hall are the two wide receivers on this team. And I think that also was another discussion, was how do you describe a team? Because I've seen some people say, well, they should have more receivers in there, maybe another running back, because the NFL does like 3 running backs and 3+ receivers. Again, semantics, we'll see as the years go on how they adjust it, but it's a discussion worth having. Tight end Jay Sternberger getting that nod for all USFL tight end. Remember, led the league in touchdowns and set a modern record for TD receptions for the Stallions. And then the lineman, center Jake Lucina and guard Calvin Ashley from the Generals. You also have guard Paul Adams from the Breakers. Tackle Avery Genesee from the Gamblers, definitely was deserving, as well as tackle Jaron Jones, who was last year, like when his name came up, I was like, yeah, no, that he's been as consistent as he's come through 2 years. I actually think he gets another chance at the league, and I'm kind of hoping he sticks, because he's had 2 very productive years in the league, and I think he has one of the best shots to stick in the NFL next season for whatever team looks to pick him up. Any thoughts on the offensive team for you real quick?
I mean, it was clear that Mark Thompson was going to make it in the bunch, so I love to see that. Jay Sternberger, absolutely. I mean, if that name wasn't in there, I think some people would have been angry. Naturally, Alex Magoo, as much as I hate to say it, because, one of those wins that he got was over my team, even though he couldn't get both. Weird, guys. Weird. The Gamblers are just all in halfway at least. But yeah, Mark Thompson, Wes Hills, that was my only worry, is somehow one of these guys is going to get edged out. But, clearly they made it happen. Corey Coleman, I mean, what else can you say?
My personal snub, actually, as much as I love Justin Hall, I was surprised Darian Davis didn't get this nod. But again, I think add on to the pile of maybe we need a second team, because Davis ended the year with better receiving stats and similar touchdown numbers. Both had 4 TDs, both had 500 plus yards receiving. Davis had a bit better production in that regard. So that's where it becomes fascinating is, what are you have the voting system set up on who gets to put that in. But I think that's a great argument if you want a second team. It's like, hey, you have a guy that had a little bit better production sit out. Justin Hall deserves a nod like that. But do we discuss that further as was he the first or the second team?
Sure.
Like that's where we get into that semantic.
For sure.
So fascinating one for me. That was one that I sat there and went, you know what? That's a discussion piece. All defensive team. This is one that, again, big talks. Vontae Diggs definitely was one that I think felt like he got snubbed from this one. And you know what? I feel bad. Same for a few Breakers players that were up there in sack numbers, for example, that I think in this team, some folks felt didn't get as much credit. And they were like, why are all these Northern teams getting the defensive credits when they finished 4 and 6 or lower? There's good defense in these leagues.
Sure.
Trust me, in both divisions, and the North was no exception. So kicking things off, Toby Johnson, only one of 2 players getting back-to-back all USFL nods. Definitely one of the top tier tackles in this league. Definitely deserving of that nod. Same for Big John Atkins, as Todd Haley goes by. Definitely imposed his will for the Memphis Showboats. Defensive end Breland Speaks absolutely had to be in there. Sack leader in the league. Had 50 plus tackles as well on his own. He was a machine all season. Adam Rodriguez getting a nod this season. Someone who's been, under the radar last 2 years. Finished second in sacks last year. Finished third in sacks this year. So had 2 great years of second half, I think, swings back into the fray of being top in production. Definitely, I think, is one that is in that conversation. But I think was one that, for some Breakers folks, was the discussion point on is where for sacks, because there were guys that finished above him in sacks or tied him on that team that didn't get this nod. So fascinating. Moving forward, Frank Ginda absolutely had to be on that roster. Yes. I'm sorry. Kaiva absolutely need to be on this roster. Chris Orr, I also think should have, but again, we talk about some debating here, and there were some good linebackers, besides Diggs. Tolson finished 4th in tackles. He got left off this list, So you want to talk about adding on another team next year? There's another conversation piece. And then the cornerbacks. Mark Gilbert definitely deserved to be on this. Arnold Tarpley, safety, definitely deserved to be on this as well. DJ Daniel, he had a great year. And I absolutely would have been outraged if Manny Bunch wasn't on here, and he deserves this nod. That is one of my biggest, lock-in. I have no negotiating over this. He has to be on this roster. Otherwise, I will flip my lid.
Right. The one guy that I saw most of the people upset that wasn't on this list, I think topping that would be Boogie Roberts. Right. There was a lot of I think there was a lot of angry Maulers fans that he didn't make the list, but it just shows you how tough the competition is this year. Because again, you look at this list, and I don't know if there's any spot on here that I'd say, nope, swap it out. Right. The numbers are kind of there to back it up. The North is really kind of solidifying themselves as we are the hard-nosed defense division, whereas the South is more of your, we're going to sling it and, spray and pray, if you will, offense-heavy division. But I think that makes it a little bit more fun. It's like the black and blue division, NFC North a little bit, but on a smaller level when we get to, these niche areas. You kind of went through some of the people you could see as snubs, but is there anyone else here, or I don't know if you've seen anybody else online saying, this guy deserved a shot or this guy missed out?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it really comes down to, I think, certain I guess Greg Reeves didn't get accolades, I felt, but again, it comes down to some guys that it was a competitive space for edge rushers, or edge rushers or linebackers in that edge rush category. Diggs obviously was one that I think definitely had his case for a second team. It's just that it's such a competitive spot for linebacker in this regard in the league. Hard to say. It really, that's the thing. It's kind of hard to pick out who was going to be in this for the first, because you have such good talent across the board. But I think like I say, Reeves, Diggs, I think those are guys that are definitely sitting there going, man, I don't know how I wasn't on this. I really wish I had been. And I think part of Diggs's thing, when you're talking about like individual effort, is that yes, like individual accolades aren't getting knocked down, but keep in mind, like there's also good overall just units, period, or they're good, but like they share the wealth. So for example, Vontae Diggs, who's his cohort that we talked to at Springstock? I'm asking you or the audience.
Yeah, you tell me, Zach.
I've
been working all day. You put me on the spot and made me had to think.
Stroud Fernandez.
Thank you. I knew that one. This is too many months ago, Zach. You tried to get me to remember Springstock? Go on.
But keep this in mind. On that roster, Diggs and Fernandez combined for 134 tackles. Combined. They both basically split 50-50 on tackles. So you have to split hairs with two really damn good linebackers and then look for the individual performances. Like Frank Ginda finished with 104 by himself. Chris Orr finished with 82 by himself. And these were guys that were that were the leaders and the guys that solo-wise had to push their units. No taking away from Diggs and Fernandez because they are damn good players. And I think that's, again, another argument for second team because you can put both of them on the second team then and say, you know what, these deserve accolades. So maybe as we talk more, this episode just keeps reinforcing that and saying, you know what, maybe it's time for that because, again, good teams, got to talk about those discussions like that too and debate. Someone else, Amani Dennis, who was tied for interceptions going into week 10, didn't get on this list. I saw someone throw Levante Taylor, who wasn't as much the stat sheet guy, but was production-wise, and he pointed this out in leading up to the interview we had last week. He held his bargain. People don't really throw his way. He locked things down. And so I think, maybe as we're going, we'll discuss next year, maybe see if the league does it. But I think this year people are making really good cases for second team nods, and those are some snubs I would say fit that bill. Final one, though, I think this is one if you really wanted to be like kind of all over the place with the snub list because it's hard to do is the special teams because kicking was really good in this year. I mean, you can, like, if you came to me and went, oh, this kicker got snubbed, it's like, welcome to the club. And there's probably like three of them that are sitting here going, man, I could have gotten the spot. Like Alex Kessman sitting here going, man, I could have had this. It's like, you could have, but Luis Aguilar did have an 8 field goal performance. He finished
we knew it. We knew it weeks ago.
He was going to be there.
He was going to be there. And I mean, 94 kicking points on the season. Can you blame him for being in that spot? And I think you brought the big one. 8 for 8 in a single game. Modern, a football record, not even just a USFL record.
And he kept it up throughout the year. Someone did try and make a point about Matt Coughlin, who did have, at the beginning of the year, the first of the record-breaking kicking performances. He also finished with better extra point stats than Luis Aguilar, but Aguilar had more points. There you go. Another argument for second team. We can throw it in there. Kickers can go have at it. I think kick returner actually is a bigger one because somehow, and give credit, Josh Simmons and Isaiah Henney. Josh Simmons, kick returner for the All-USFL team. Isaiah Henney, punt returner for the All-USFL team. Completely understandable. Both of them had excellent return yard coverage or touchdown returns throughout the year, but no Derek Dillon.
Interesting, right?
That one is a huge one to me. For the highlights he provided and for some of the stuff he provided the second half of the season, kind of surprised. He actually finished with the all-purpose yards lead at the end of the season too, and he's not on this list. His teammate, Vinny Papali, actually takes the special teams player nod as his overall special teams. Yeah. Derek's not on this list at all. That's one that fascinated me the most. And then Ryan Langan from the Birmingham Stallions got the long snapper of the year along with his punter, Colby Wadman. That one also got a little controversy because Brock Miller. So weird. The special teams one, actually there's a lot of them that are like, I think to me even make more of an argument for a second team because you're like, where are like 4 players that we love watching?
Yeah, Derek Dillon is huge. I mean, let's not forget that kick 6, 109 yards all the way home. I mean, that was one hell of a play.
It's currently in the play of the year bracket. Honestly, I think it'll win the play of the year bracket. But like that's his big break. And then he had another great return, several great returns, including a touchdown last week.
Right.
and finishes with all-purpose yards. He was a great receiver this year. I mean, that's someone that people, like I said, they're like, wait, so he finished with all-purpose, but he didn't get a nod. Right. Dang, man. Like, you just kick yourself with that.
How tough the competition really, really is, man. This was a fun season. I mean, it's crazy that we're even talking about all USFL team right now. It seems just like yesterday we were talking about season 2. Oh, season 2 is coming. Season 2 is confirmed. Here we are at the end of it. These guys all deserved it. I think you have a good point. I would love to see a second team announced in the future. I get why it's not now. You got to build, you got to grow. But I mean, we are getting to the point where competition is so hot, it does merit it.
And it can change. The league has shown, people know this, that they are very open to adapting based on what fans are interested in doing. I have no doubt in my mind you're seeing someone like a Daryl Johnson online or having people report to him going, hey, we have a lot of conversation about this year. And him going, you know what? Let's talk about this in the off season because, it's going to be another busy year. I mean, shoot, man, we're already talking about not even the hubs in general that are already there because all 3 of those have been confirmed to come back next year in Birmingham, Memphis, and Detroit. More like home cities, really. Let's talk about hubs anymore. Now it's about later after this season with the speculation zone about which ones, if not all, get in. That's what we're going to talk later in the year about. We're at that stage almost. We still have more things to do, including coaches. We did get these nods before the show. Didn't get the MVP or offensive player, defensive player of the year, special teams of the year, or man of the year. Those are left to be still on the docket. We did get coaches, and I don't think I'm surprised at either one of these whatsoever. The assistant coach of the year is brand new. That was not there last year. They added this accolade, and I think it's to highlight some of the better coordinators. Something that's been brought up in discussions with coaches in the past is that spring football is not just for players, it's also for coaches to get a new avenue. And I think this is a perfect example. We'll start with the assistant coach section. Jaron Horton is the assistant coach of the year, and can you blame him? I mean, the man led the best defense in the league. He has been doing a great job at being the defensive coordinator and the assistant coach of the Pittsburgh Maulers and building a culture there of basically flipping the script from last year. They have credited last year's team to helping build the foundation to what this year has become. But Jaron, I think, has been the leading voice in saying, hey, let's go that next level and put that chip on our shoulder from what happened the year prior. And it's shown. There is a absolute reason, even though they are 4-6, even though you can clown on the North Division for having 2 sub-500 playoff teams, they deserve to be there because, I mean, they've played teams tough all year. It has either been mostly one-score losses or they have come in and they have won by sheer defense and will. Right. And it's because I think a lot of it starts with him.
Oh, 100%. I mean, he was one of my favorite coaches coming in with, especially with the fact that he has to work with his father, or not has to, but he gets to work with his father.
Arguably the best story in the league this whole season.
It's amazing. And the turnaround, like you said, from worst to first in the North. I mean, Jaron Horton has been all over behind the scenes. I mean, we've seen him talk on Twitter. I mean, he is not shy to tell you his opinion, what he's thinking. We've seen it in the Discord. We're seeing it over on the field. I mean, it just feels to me that soon, maybe not next year, but soon, we're going to see Jaron Horton taking the reins himself. Maybe not even for the Maulers. Maybe he goes over to another team. We get a father-son battle situation, but this is quite the first step. I mean, you can tell how much they impressed the league that they even went out and added an assistant coach of the year award because, like you mentioned, this was not here in 2022.
No, it was not. No. And certainly a great speculation zone on the horizon, given that we will, I mean, not saying it's bound to happen, but look, spring football, guys come and go, they elevate to a level. I mean, it's not impossible to sit here and go, hey, look, Jaron's been on the up and up. Do we debate on if he gets that nod or if he wants that nod? You know, we'll talk about that later on, I think, but definitely deserves the nod. I mean, was the de facto drive, I think was the extreme driving force behind the Maulers in terms of getting their guys to where they're at rallying the troops, especially that 2-game winning streak, to be where they're at now. Head coach of the year, though, this is one that some folks thought was snubbed last year. Like, this is actually it was a heavily debated one last year, because don't get me wrong, I still think last year Mike Riley deserved it, even though some folks came and talked to me on DMs about like, hey, are you sure? And I'm like, no, I think it was. And he deserves it no matter what this season, for the fact they had a bunch of stuff to deal with week 1, and they look just as good right now, if not better than the end of last year's regular season. And that's Skip Holtz. I mean, all the adjustments they had to make from injuries. I mean, you lost your starting fullback and running back and your starting quarterback from the end of last year in one game, along with your top returning receiver in that same game. 4 major losses for season-ending IR, along with defensive injuries that would linger for at least the first half of the season. And you come out of this 8-2 with Alex Magoo as an MVP quarterback, and you look like, if you clean your act up, you have a possibly better running team than last year's championship team. I mean, hats off to you, man. That's all I can say. You know, hats slightly off. I'm under my headset, of course. Ew, get that, like, put that back on.
Well, I took my hats off to Skip Holtz, and then, you know, something happened behind the scenes there.
It is.
I should put the sensor on it, but
it is what it is. Skip, though, I mean, again, please, Stefan, feel free, of course, chime in some extra pieces, because I can go on all day. You and I know enough about how great this man is in person. But as a head coach, it is amazing listening to this man on the sidelines. Like, we talk about Jaron's support from his guys. I mean, Skip's like a freaking dad to these guys now. Like, it's like father figure status with a lot of these players on the Stallions roster.
Oh, yeah. I would say watching Skip on the sidelines is almost as entertaining as watching the game on the field. I'll tell you what, he is in the zone from the kickoff until the last second. He's there watching every play, talking to his players, moving between coaches. I mean, I talked about this with other folks, but I mean, I was at that Panthers game this past weekend and in week 3. And you know what you didn't see? You didn't see the coaches talking to everybody. You didn't see the players talking to everybody. You didn't see them coming off the field after a good play or a bad play, trying to figure out what they should do next. Skip Holtz is all over that. And I think you brought this up too. On the field during the game and before and after the game too. We joked about it earlier this season. Cowgirl's coming out. Cowgirl hat flies off. What does good old Skip Holtz do? He picks it up. He makes it happen. He brings that cowgirl hat. He ain't going to let it sit over on the sidelines. We've seen him. I mean, I think back at while we're in Birmingham earlier this year, getting ready for spring stock. I think it was the Avondale Brewing Company or something along those lines. They had a little bit of a meet and greet. And wouldn't you know it, Skip Holtz is there, and he's continues to be and always has been one of the nicest people I've spoke to in real life. And every time I talk to him, he seems just to be a little bit nicer. And I'd hate to have to play him on the field to see another side of Skip Holtz, because you do see him on the field and there's a whole new fire in his eyes. Off of the field, shoot, he'll give you a hot dog. You know what I mean? He'll make you a whole barbecue. But on the field, he's getting it done, and this is why he's winning those accolades. I agree. I think he was snubbed last year too, and now he's earning his spot. We'll see, though.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I think for Stallions fans that I talk to, I think this makes up for last year's, and again, I still fully support the decision for Mike Riley last season. I think he did an excellent job last year, so I'm not taking that away. Skip this year, though, without a doubt. I think some folks, I did see that John DeFilippo was in that conversation, which I agree too. I think that's another one. You can make an argument that it feels like this Breakers squad's better than last year's Breakers squad. I think Ray Horton was in there for a bit of a conversation because of the fact it's playoff bound from last to best in the division. But I think Skip, just you think about that early season adversity and the changes they had to make on the fly. I mean, that deserves it. Like I said, this roster feels like it went through even more of trial and error to get where it's at now to finish 8-2. So hats off to them. Awesome to see him get that nod. And I mean, for a guy that's getting the accolades now, starting to collect for his 2 years in the league, and he's still got playoffs to worry about. coming up.
Real quick.
Speaking of that,
before we get to the playoffs, I got a question for you, Zach. Did you put your cards in your suitcase?
I don't want to answer that question.
Well, we got 1 week left, buddy, so you're going to have to figure that out.
There is a reason to that, though, because when we called on the phone this week, I said to this man on the phone, I'm putting the cards in the suitcase after I get off the dial. And I didn't do that at all.
No curtains.
I went and watched a Frontline special instead.
I mean, it happens to the best of us. So if you guys are at Summer Stock 2 next week and you want a Zach trading card, pray right now. Say, Zach, please put the cards in your bag because we're going to have them day 1, day 2. You know what? I got like 3 of yours, Zach, in my wallet for some reason. Those are the people I try to lie about my name. And then they look at the picture and they're like,
oh, you hand off duties.
Yeah, and they're like, this doesn't look like you. And by then, I'm already like 10 steps away.
License and registration.
Yeah. Sir, this is a trading car. Sir, this is a Wendy's.
That's the setup to how people get into LifeLock paid programs. I had a $500 speeding ticket on my ID on my account. I don't know even how I got it. This guy was in Texas. I live in Arizona.
They said he was driving a Tesla.
I don't even own a Tesla.
Oh, good times. Well, Zach, you got a week.
I do have a week. I will probably get hounded for that, knowing me. The rally mode has to keep the energy up. It's probably what happened. Keep him distracted here is all. I will have that. Spring stock, I will have those cards. I swear. And we'll also have before spring stock,
summer stock,
or after spring stock.
Summer stock.
So, I know. I'm looking.
No, you're good.
I'm full.
I got you flustered,
man. I'm so flustered because these cards.
With that card question again.
Here's the deal, though. The league announced similar last year a concert. This time, though, instead of during the championship series, they moved it as part of championship week, which I love that decision, first off, because it's great for marketing to build up an audience. You get like that extra carrot, because the way it is that you can come to the game at 5 to see Dylan Scott, who's a multi-platinum artist in the country scene, perform at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
2 hour to 2 hour concert. I'm assuming closer to 2 hours. Then they set the field up for 8 o'clock, and it's game time.
Yeah.
But before that, you can hit summer stock.
Well, that's the thing. So they set up a concert for us. They said, hey, look, summer stock, that's the biggest party of the summer, but there ain't no music. So they had to bring Dylan Scott to come pump up the volume for the old podcast boys. But I'll tell you this, Zach, now that they got a stage up there, I mean, they act like I'm not an award-winning, community-loving musical act myself. I mean, everybody would love to see your favorite single, Let's Play Some Tetris. And I got another one up my sleeve. I wasn't sure if I was going to release it, but I'm going to release it after the championship game.
Oh, wow.
Not literally after, but the day after. Like,
you're going to dangle that carrot out there on this show,
well,
too?
And here's the thing. If they put me on that stage, you might be able to hear that song early. But I'll tell you this, that will never happen. But let's play some Tetris. Come on. It's Tetris time, because I just dropped 4 lines for the 4th time, starting at level 9. Put the ref up there. I mean, Dylan Scott, we could have some kind of battle. He does country pop. I do good times. I got no voice. Well, I got, better of a voice than I did last year. But either way, you know what? I have no problem playing second fiddle to a multi-platinum recording artist. But you know what? Sign us up. Summer stock just got bigger. We got a Dylan Scott concert at Summer stock. That's how I'm gonna promote that on the flyer. Summer stock 2, really small, featuring Dylan Scott on the other side.
Dylan Scott
of the building.
We totally had the hookup for that. We're connected in the music industry. I had someone ask me about this because again, it's a big deal. Like I said, they're moving it to the championship day, so you're adding that extra bit of a party for the people that are there. And again, you buy a ticket to the championship, which, let's be honest, is going to probably be.
It's affordable. I
would say a better value than just buying the concert ticket to a Dylan Scott concert. Not saying look, in terms of the overall, what you get the concert, you get a championship game. And my guess with the USFL, you get a fireworks show at the very end, like they did last year. I would be highly pressed to be wrong if I put that out there. It's a speculation.
Are you telling me that fireworks are back on the menu for Summer Stock 2? Because I got to put this all on the flyer. Summer Stock 2 starting at 3 p.m. And then, Dylan Scott and then fireworks.
Oh, yeah. And then, by the way, it's 4th of July weekend. So, just add on that bit. I mean, look at all we talk about the best, as Brett Zaleski and company have always loved to hear from us, the best value in professional sports. That's the best value in a professional sports day you can find this year. It's that simple. Like the tickets right now, and I'll double check this while we're talking, but it's going to be worth every penny to get that whole experience set up. And again, we get to be right at the entrance to this entire thing. We have a great locale for this. I mean, it's awesome. Look, $25. You can go to a Dylan Scott concert and the championship game for $25 because all he needs is a championship ticket.
Well, and
$25
and here you slap another 15 on it, round it up, 25 plus 15, that gets you to 40. For $40, you can get a ticket to the championship game, a Dylan Scott concert, and a Summer Stock 2 t-shirt. So, I mean, $40. Come and get to the booth. We're limited capacity on those Summer Stock shirts. I learned from Spring Stock. But anyway, this is going to be, if you like the country limited pop, capacity. You like some football, this is just a little bit of an incentive. But I mean, like I said, Summer Stock 2 just keeps getting bigger. I never thought we'd have a multi-platinum recording artist hanging out in the same sort of kind of parking lot as Summer Stock 2.
Sort of area we're at. But yeah, if you were looking for any extra incentive, they just announced that as of our day of recording. Definitely check that out. 5 o'clock, the gates open. 6 o'clock, you can go and the concert starts. 8 o'clock is the championship game. All this plus our Summer Stock at 3. Big event. Big, massive event for July 1st, that July 4th weekend. Hey, what a way to kick off your July 4th weekend as well. If you're getting that extended vacation, post that too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you get that Monday off.
I'm taking
dang, dude, you're rocking it right now.
I'm taking a bunch of time off. I need it.
If you're family, you're a mom or dad of the year at that point.
Oh yeah. 100%. So, Zach, you know what that leads us to? We got the playoffs coming up. I did you a thing here. So you won the year in Pick'ems, 10-8 on your season. Sign you up. I purposely went 7-11 because it's a Texan establishment.
You wanted the funny.
I thought it was funny, and I really like Slurpees. But so you get to pick which game do you want to make the pick for in the kicking off the playoffs. I'll let you decide. Do you want to take the homer pick, or do you want to stay safe and stay out of it? I'll give you that much.
I'm thinking here. I'm in rally mode, so it would be pretty easy for me to pick to do the North Championship and just be that guy. But I'm not going to do that. I actually want to.
That's smart, Zach.
I'm going to be a superstitious person right now and let you do the first one. I will be picking Breakers Stallions for this week, but whatever happens in your pick. I might refute it. I might agree with it. We'll see. But I am fully in rally mode. I am in full homer mode. This is what happens when I start believing a little bit in my fan base, even more so. I'm a fan, but I get crazy believing fan if they start playing well.
Zach, you're telling me I am the number one Panthers fan, the Panther. My Panther jersey is in the dry cleaners, but the hat is really all you need. We have the Michigan Panthers. We have the Pittsburgh Maulers, 8 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Again, we talked about this earlier. this matchup has the potential to be amazing. We have a couple things. One, USFL After Dark has always delivered this season. Two, we're going from the two worst teams last season to fighting for a chance to make to get into the USFL championship just a week later. Both teams have brand new coaches. Both teams have formidable defenses. Both teams are, I'd say, evenly matched. And this one could really it really could go either way. I'll say this, EJ Perry showed that he has what it takes to get the Panthers across the finish line, especially in a building that they weren't able to win in all season. We've also seen that he can fumble the ball, 3 or 4 times in a game, right?
Yeah.
The Maulers, my worry with the Maulers, and I hope nobody from the Maulers is listening to this show, have they won 2 games in a row this year?
Funny enough, they did.
Oh, they did. They did.
It was leading into this game that they played last week.
All right. I mean, maybe this is it, because that would be my worry. I'm the superstitious of all the superstitiouses. And I was like, oh, my God, if they can't win 2 games and now this is the game that they need to win, I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest, I really don't know who to go for in this. But if the Maulers can do what they did last week, and in any of the other instances where their defense was just swarmed on a team, I think they can pull this out. What we still don't know, and maybe this will be out by the time the episode releases, but what we still don't know is we're assuming that EJ Perry's going to get the start. That's an assumption here, folks.
I mean, do you think they'll change it again? That's like
Zach, I don't know. I don't know. I could easily see my boy Josh Love coming into this game.
Actually, I take that back. I can tell you, because we record when they release the first set of
charts. Who we got?
They are, and I'll confirm. I'll let you know right now.
I am very curious. I think it's going to be EJ Perry.
They kept the same.
All right.
Josh Love is inactive again.
Oh wow!
So it is Perry and Brian Lewerke are going to be your quarterbacks. Perry's getting the start.
I mean, to me, that's a good thing for the Panthers. They got the win. They got it done. But against the Maulers' mean defense, everything in me wants to pick the Panthers. I feel like I'm going to do you a favor by not picking the Panthers. Final deal. Maulers are pulling it out. The Maulers are going to the championship. I think it's going to happen. I think their defense is just that flipping hungry. And then you add on to the fact that Jaron Horton's coming into this game peacocking away, assistant coach of the year. He's going to have to say, and this is why they did it, folks. And this is why they made me assistant coach of the year. And this is why I'm going to be a head coach one day. And this is why we're going to be the USFL champions 1 week from now.
Call me the anchor man, because I don't believe you.
Of course you don't have to believe me. I just call it like I see it. I don't make the rules. I don't write the laws. But tell me, what's your analysis here? What's your breakdown?
My breakdown is that the magic keeps running from Michigan's win last week. EJ Perry gets a second week under his belt, keeps changing the offense to what worked, which is less deep routes, more focus on the intermediate to open possibly the deep route. I also think they keep on looking at targets that are more reliable. You saw, my boy Joe Walker hasn't really been showing up. I'm just going to call him out right here. Maybe this is the message. Joe, you got to play your best game of your season. And that's saying something given some of the games you had this year, because honestly, guys like Trey Quinn have been playing better. Cole Hicatini have been playing better than you. I think they're going to have to find run lanes to open up the pass. Hard ask, because it is the Maulers. But I think that if you see any bit more offensive production they had against the Maulers than their previous 2 opportunities, which both games against Pittsburgh, they only scored 7 points. Those are both with Josh Love. And I know that's, it's still an awkward discussion topic for a lot of Panthers fans that Josh isn't playing. But if you can find any more of that offense, if you can get pressure and get key turnovers against the Maulers and keep on bringing the same energy from last week, if your special teams plays up to snuff, that's where you're going to play it up, because you're going to have to match, I think, best for best. Your defenses are going to be the key components. Which defense flinches last? I'm going to probably say it's the Maulers defense, but darn it, I'm still riding with the homer pick as my, as the unofficial one, because I'm here now. I'm at this point.
YOLO.
We've gone farther than I thought. I have to ride or die, like I should be, even more so than I have been. So we're at the ride or die. Go Michigan.
All right.
Go Panthers.
We're splitting it.
We're hunting today. Looking for some Maulers out there.
Well, I like to see it. I'm rooting for you. But, man, either way, this has the potential to be one hell of a fun game. Like I said, USFL After Dark has continued to deliver all year. It's like there's something in the air that make these guys just go crazy. I mean, we saw it last week when you compare last week to this to 2 weeks ago with the Generals, what an After Dark game could do for you. I mean, that shows you everything you need to see.
That's wild.
Right?
It is certainly wild, but yeah, I love USFL After Dark. I really do believe, though, as much as I am excited for my Panthers, the game of the week is definitely in the South.
Right.
It is. I mean, these are two of the cream of the crop, top overall rosters in the league. I'm not saying that the South's going to be the de facto championship team, but they provide, I think, the most on paper cases right now in terms of overall performance and what these two teams have done all year. They've split their contests. They are both capable of delivering knockout blows. It's going to be fun, man. I have been looking forward to part 3, if it was going to happen, since the Breakers did get their win over the Showboats in week 9, and we're going to get that chance. Thing is, though, I mean, I'm one of those guys, and people know, I track tickets like a crazy person. It's like a side hobby. To jump on Ticketmaster and follow the little blue dots. That's going to be a packed stadium, and we're recording on Thursday. The game's not till Sunday. They are on pace to, if I were to guess and know, and based on what I've seen from Brett, maybe open even more sections. And this is speculation. I have no inside knowledge of this. But if you want to go on Ticketmaster right now, you might want to pick up some tickets quick. Like I said, these sections are filling, man. People are buying this up. Pack Protective is spreading.
As it should be.
It's going to be a loud
As it should be. This is the first playoff game we were talking about.
Since 1991.
Yeah, I mean, sign you up on that alone. Over 30 years in the making of getting a playoff team in that beautiful Birmingham, even though you would have thought last year would have broken that. The hub was all in Birmingham, but even when it came to the playoffs, that's when things moved to Canton. Well, now is your time to show up for your team in the offseason, and it looks like we don't even have to tell them. It looks like they know the drill. They are ready. They are ready to get loud and say, buck 'em to the Breakers. But I don't know if it's going to be that easy.
Section 104 is going to be stacked. The Horsemen will be stacked in there. Let me give you my quick analysis on, and then my pick. Breakers Stallions. First off, I think home field advantage is going to be huge here. So without a doubt, you're going to see it just like the previous matchup. No, not so much the earlier one, because that was a hot early day game. But the second one, remember, they packed in the crowd. That was one of the largest crowds at Protective all year. They're going to do it again. So it's going to be loud. If you're the Breakers, you got to accept that. They know that they are the upset. They are the ones that are trying to upset the parade. They have taken that mentality all year. Beginning of the season, when we were talking about with Vontae Diggs and Gerard Fernandez, they've been looking for this moment. This is the moments they've wanted all year, is to try and see if they can deliver the knockout blow and be on top. And honestly, this is a good chance. They have a defense that does swarm. They have a defense that's mobile and can, try and contain Alex Magoo, in my opinion, and startle him. And they did have success in the late second half against the Stallions in their second contest. The thing is, the Breakers need to look like the Breakers from the first half of the year again. They've been showing flashes, okay? Sage Surratt's been having his moments. Johnny Dixon, as of the second half of the year, has been the number one guy for them in the last few contests. They have that opportunity. I think Wes Hills needs to play up to close to a level he was in the first half of the year. Doesn't have to be a 100-yard game, but 100-yard total yards. I think that's the production you want to see from him. Secure the ball. Whichever team doesn't play lackadaisical with ball security is going to come out on top. We know the Stallions and the Breakers are both capable of allowing the turnover bug to dictate how the game flow goes. We've seen it, but they're talented enough to overcome it. Which one do I think is the most talented to overcome it, though? I think Birmingham. I'm going to go with the Stallions to repeat back there. And maybe that's a driving point for Breakers fans to go, you know what? I hope Vontae Diggs gets to laugh into the camera again and say, told you so. But I just don't see it. And again, the Stallions have gotten healthier. That defense has been getting healthier. Scooby Wright's going to be there for this contest. He's been getting back to health and strength, so they'll be getting that asset. You know, they've been playing better ball. They've been getting better pressure as the year's gone on, something that they were struggling with, especially in that first contest against New Orleans earlier in the season. I think they do enough. It's a one-score game, though. It's going to come down to the wire. It'll be the best game of the weekend. Not saying that it can't be close against Michigan and Pittsburgh, but I think if you are a fan of this, if you're a casual person that's looking for, if I'm picking 2 USFL games and which one am I feeling I can't miss, I'm flipping to Fox on Sunday night and watching Breakers Stallions Part 3 because that rivalry's been fun for the last 2 years, and it keeps getting better.
Well, these two teams have played each other more than any other teams in the league. This is their 6th matchup.
6th appearance.
In 2 seasons. 6 times these teams are going to go head-to-head. Everything in me, Zach, everything in me wants to root for the Breakers. Everything in me wants to see McLeod, Bethel, Thompson move on to the USFL Championship and begin his reign of terror on the USFL for many years to come. Everything in me wants to see Coach DeFilippo run full force after his team beats the Stallions. Everything in me wants to see the Breakers players dousing Coach Flip with Gatorade after the game. But nothing in me can say that it's going to happen. And I want it to happen so bad. But time and time and time again, Coach Holtz, the Birmingham Stallions have proved that they are just the best damn team in the league. Alex Magoo is just, I have a feeling, going to come out and fight and play like he's never played before. When I look at the times that the Stallions have played poorly and compare that to the times that the Breakers have played poorly, there is a very big distinction. The Breakers in some games look like they can't get anything going, whereas the Stallions, even in a loss, look like they could have pulled out that game. Everything in me wants the Breakers to pull this out, but everything in me thinks the Stallions are going to be the ones to do it, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern on Fox, bro.
I know a few specific Breakers buddies of ours, and one that's on our newsroom crew that would very much not like to see that. But if they get what they want, they're going to be partying like they're in Mardi Gras for a week. That's all I can tell you. And honestly, I think some folks, like more of the casual side of this, where they're like matchup savvy, we're like, ooh, would it be interesting? Right. I think some folks would be curious to see the Breakers get there because in the USFL's history, New Orleans overall between 2 eras is about 500 or so. Actually, this is probably the most successful streak of Breakers seasons in their history is these last 2 years. They haven't been to into a championship. I can only imagine how they would feel if they got there. And I don't either one, whoever wins this one, like seriously, I'm gonna enjoy any of these matchups. I love the storylines of 3 of the teams, and I love that my team is one good game away from getting another shot at trying to get one good game away. So, man, fun times ahead. And we might do something to do instant reaction. We're debating at the end of this weekend. Still talking about it. It's not finalized, but if we can get the cards to play right, we might end of the weekend, end of the Sunday night, might just jump on and say, hey,
this is why they need to be.
Let's talk about
this. Is why they need to be following us on social media, Zach, because this is where whoa, surprise! These
at
guys
USFL
are going
Podcast,
live.
People.
Yeah, break it down.
At USFL Podcast, be sure to follow along. Like I said, we're talking about it. We'll keep you posted, but we might jump on and do a post game react and basically primer for what you can expect for summer stock. So keep that in mind. That would be via YouTube Live. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the YouTube, by the way. Click that bell. Builds morale, not only for you, but for us too. And check everything else that we're all about. Summer stock's around the corner, people. Championships around the corner. Hope you guys enjoy the playoffs that are ahead. Going to be a fascinating 2 games. Remember, one on NBC on Saturday night, one on Fox Sunday night. You can't miss. It's going to be good football. We're going to have a grand old time leading in to July 4th weekend for the USFL Championship, number 2 in the modern era, 2023 edition. For the ref himself, I am Zach Kyleman saying so long. Catch you for episode whatever is next or summer stock. We'll keep you posted, though. Thanks for tuning in as always. Catch you for the next one, everybody.